Maya Njie is one of my favorite indie perfume brands, and I'm going to take you through all 7 of the fragrances in her line. Maya Njie is a London-based perfumer with Gambian and Swedish heritage, and she really truly instills her heritage and her family history into every single one of the fragrances in her line. She even accompanies each fragrance with a postcard that has like a photo from her family album on the card to give you a sense of what that perfume was trying to evoke. They really are moving and emotional fragrances. I really wish I had captured on camera my initial reactions sniffing through her discovery set, because I was so incredibly moved by each one of these fragrances. Let's start with one of my favorite fragrances in the line, Vanilj. This is a sweet cardamom bomb. Cardamom and vanilla are the 2 dominant notes in this fragrance. However, there's also patchouli and cedar, which are also very much there, but they're just there to support the cardamom and vanilla, in my opinion. Patchouli's really hit or miss for me, but on my skin, it gave a slightly cocoa powdery effect, and they really just were there to help the cardamom and vanilla shine. I would definitely recommend trying this one out, even if you're not a huge patchouli or cedar fan. This was also like a deceivingly fresh fragrance. I could have sworn there was like a bergamot, some sort of citrus in here, freshening up the fragrance. So I feel like this can be used year round. Maybe that's just how it came off on my skin, but I think the cardamom leans very fresh rather than heavy and spicy. Next, let's talk about Nordic Cedar. This one is very similar to Vanilj, except it doesn't have the vanilla note. It still retains the cardamom, patchouli, and cedar. It does have a slightly medicinal quality that I also get from Vanilj, but I would say Nordic Cedar is a slightly colder, more unisex, and less sweet version of Vanilj. Vanilj is also very unisex, but I feel like Nordic Cedar leans maybe just slightly more masculine. I really like the spices in here though. That added cinnamon is really beautiful with the cardamom and other notes. Next, let's talk about Fleurs. This is a green, fragrant, floral perfume, as you can imagine from the title. This is not like you picked a bouquet of flowers and are smelling it from a vase, but rather you are walking through the most lush, beautiful garden, and the flowers are at peak bloom. You also get a distinct green quality in here too, so you're smelling like the leaves and stems. There is a wood in the base that's giving that like stemmy quality. There's also a hint of fresh sweetness in here from a pulpy fig note, which is really beautiful. But you want to talk about a springtime floral fragrance? This is it. I cracked a huge smile when I first smelled Tropica. This is a very happy fragrance because it starts off at the top with really nice, fresh, bright citruses, but they're not too much. It's not a blast of citrus. They're beautifully blended with other fruity notes like pineapple and fig. And then in the dry down, you get this really creamy coconut, but it doesn't lean sunscreeny to me. It really just gives you a really beautiful creamy warmth. And at the base, there are some woods as well as an ambergris note that makes it a little bit salty. This is the definition of a summer perfume. Next, let's talk about Tobak. This smells like the most cozy, comforting hug from your loving, elegantly dressed up grandfather. It does have some beautiful tobacco and spice notes in here that are complemented by an almost dusty leather and wood note in here. It's very nostalgic. It does also have somewhat of like an old-timey men's cologne type of vibe to it as well. However, if you like tobacco and wood, I would definitely get your nose on this one. I do think it is slightly masculine leaning, but gosh, is it beautiful and moving. Now, while all her fragrances really depict the images that they come with beautifully, I think Voyeur Verde is the most true to the picture fragrance out of the whole line. It truly smells like vinyl leather complemented by lush greens, and there is an herbaceous quality to it as well. It's very nostalgic. There is a freshness from a bergamot in here. There's also some powdery florals and frankincense that really add to that nostalgic effect. Overall, this smells exactly like a vintage car with vinyl seats, taken over by Lush Green Jungle. And last but certainly not least, we have Syren. This one is not available in Maya Njie's Discovery set, but she so kindly gifted this one to me, knowing I love a good jasmine note. This is a very indolic jasmine and lilac perfume. The two florals are paired beautifully. Because this is pretty indolic, it does give me a little bit of like a vintage vibe. What I mean by indolic is there's a little bit of funkiness, rotten dirty aspect to these florals. It's as if you crushed some of the petals between your fingers, or you have a bouquet of wilting jasmine or lilacs. But there's always room for a little bit of funk in a fragrance. Because of that indolic quality though, I feel like this does lean a little bit vintage. And the combination of jasmine and lilacs gives me a very kind of haunting, yet still very springy fragrance. This one is really interesting and beautiful, especially if you love a realistic jasmine and lilac fragrance. So I hope you enjoyed this tour of Maya Njie fragrances. Overall, they are so incredibly emotional and moving, and such a beautiful snapshot into her childhood and family and life. I have never so quickly upgraded so many fragrances from a Discovery set. I love how these are not only wearable, but they're pieces of art at the same time. I definitely recommend you try them at least. The Discovery set does give you a bit of a voucher and a discount towards a full bottle if you want to explore the fragrances first and then upgrade your size. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more fun perfume content.